Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. XRP almost lost a crucial support level yesterday on the daily, but it didn't. I'll show you in a second the chart, but it went down and it just snapped right back. It's kind of like a mini little flash crash. So did something happen to XRP specifically? Well, as is frequently the case, the answer is no. Bitcoin crashed, XRP went with it, market popped back up, the day is saved basically. But this is a level that we've been watching. And there have been warnings recently that if this is lost, you could see a big move to the downside for XRP specifically. So I'll share with you perspective from an analyst that says, no, everything's pretty much still looking good. Not that much has changed. The same levels that we've been talking about are still in play. Also of substantial interest, I would say, is the fact that the S&P 500 just hit a new all-time high on Friday. And I'm going to share with you perspective from a couple analysts out there who firmly believe that a couple things, are going to see a new all-time high for Bitcoin in 2024. And look, I've said my piece on that. If Bitcoin goes to a new all-time high, I will be shocked if XRP doesn't follow to a new all-time high also. Now, if Bitcoin doesn't, I'm a bit skeptical on that. So maybe it still moves with the market, but new all-time high, But one of the analysts I'm going to share with you perspective from points out exactly how Bitcoin historically has followed the S&P 500. When the S&P 500 hits new all-time highs, spoiler alert, in the past, Bitcoin has followed, but on a delayed effect. So if history is to more or less repeat or kind of rhyme with itself at least, we're going to have a hell of a 2024. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say are right. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. In case anybody's curious, at the time I'm recording this, it's way in the morning for me, where I live anyway, 3:50 a.m., and it is, it's Saturday. That's right, Saturday, January 20th, 2024. So again, XRP here, almost 55 cents. Bitcoin, 41,583 bucks. And for those of you that care to look, this is a 24-hour chart for XRP, so you can see in the morning around, where was the low? 10:45 a.m. Central Time. That's my time zone. So you can see that's where it bottomed out and moved back up. Now here's a 24-hour Bitcoin chart. Timing's the same. It bottomed out almost at exactly the same time. Then Bitcoin did move back to the upside. So support level was held, as pointed out by chart analyst Crypto, as he shared this chart and simply wrote, a big XRP sell-off today, but good thing, price bounced and closed above 54-cent support. So we'll see what follows there. Now, here's the latest from chart analyst Dark Defender. XRP crypto haters are happy to see the current bleeding in them and shorting bloodthirstily. It is tedious and frustrating for most of us waiting to see $1 and above figures for years, but on the other hand, the people here since earlier stages made lots of profit. Digital assets are not similar to other asset behavior dynamics. In crypto, the corrections as well as appreciations are immense compared to regular assets. Yeah, exactly right, folks. So I'll just pause to note that's why I will be as patient as is required. I understand what is at stake here, and I understand that it's my job to just be more patient than everybody else. And if I'm right on my bet that XRP is going to have long-term viability and the market's going to value it accordingly, then I win. And if I'm wrong, maybe I'm wrong and XRP goes to zero. I just don't think that's what's most probable here, but that is how this works. And then he says, it is repetitive for me to say XRP still ranges between the same Fibonacci levels with no change. Supports and resistances. The supports would be 52 cents, 46 cents, and 39 cents if it actually got down that low. And then resistances would be 66 cents, $1.88, and $5.85. So anyway, the point being, fine, it's repetitive, but that's the point to take away from this is, despite all the short-term price action, which is scaring the hell out of people, he doesn't think anything's changed fundamentally. And then he says the current horizontal zone is between 66 cents and 52 cents, and this is normal until 39 cents if we go that low. And by the way, I've been sharing perspective from a couple analysts just warning that there is potential for a drop. I was talking about that in a video yesterday. And I will tell you this, though. If that does happen, which I admit is possible, I suspect it's going to be led by Bitcoin. I'd be surprised if you see a substantial drop in XRP and it's just XRP alone. We'll see. We'll see if it happens, but I gotta admit, I'd be a bit surprised by that. And then he says, the final resistance is the dip of wave 2. expanded C wave. Whether people accept it or not, crypto is here to stay, and XRP is one of the leading instruments in the world. These swings are the nature of crypto. This much horizontal movement is monotonous, but it will end for sure. We will still target the same structure below. Stay positive, stay tuned. Yeah, and so I appreciate the sentiment. I don't make price predictions, and maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong directionally in terms of what to expect next. But I definitely appreciate this idea that if you're going to make it, yes, you have to not buy crap coins. That is true. You have to pick some winners, which is sometimes easier said than done, although XRP with its actual utility, I'm pretty confident in it, obviously. But it is the case that you kind of just have to wait. There's a lot of horizontal movement. Most of what it is to be in crypto is not the exciting days where things are popping off tremendously, but that's why we're here. That's why we have the opportunity to make this wealth, is because people can't handle that. And then there was also this post from Scott Melker, the Wolf of Wall Street's on social media platform X. He said, people and the market, in quotes, are expecting a massive rate cut cycle starting in March. People have been dead-ass wrong about their predictions en masse for the past few years. Early 2023, predictive markets had 3 cuts in 2023 priced in at nearly 100%. I doubt we see cuts soon. Okay, so here's why I wanted to highlight this, because we're about to talk about the S&P 500 and how Bitcoin historically has followed, and knowing that XRP is going to follow along with Bitcoin, like the whole market does. That's why all of this is highly consequential. So we'll see what happens with rate cuts. It's still perfectly reasonable to suppose we are going to get them this year. He doesn't think we're going to see them anytime soon, so presumably not this year. That's what he thinks. And it is true that people are wrong about this stuff all the time. He noted that the rate cuts, people predicting that were wrong last year, and there were people in 2022 saying that 2023 was going to be a crap year when it comes to equities. That wasn't the case, obviously. So people are wrong about stuff. People are wrong about major calls all the damn time. Nobody's perfect. That's which is why I'm always trying to see who has the best track record, understanding that we're speaking in probabilities and nobody's going to have a perfect hit rate. And so I do understand that, and that's fair and reasonable. But this is important because if we are going to see rate cuts, typically those rate cuts come in response to metrics that the Fed is tracking, indicating that S-word's about to hit the fan. So as a reactionary measure, the Fed cuts rates historically, and then markets after that at some point do start tanking. And knowing that the stock market and Bitcoin, if you zoom out, you can see they move in tandem. That's consequential for all of us. It's certainly us here in crypto. We got a lot of money on the line, right? I think that's fair to say a lot of us do, right? So, if it's the case that the Fed doesn't cut rates, and I don't pretend to know for sure, I understand that it's expected to be happening this year, and it very well may. If it doesn't, though, it would lend extra credence to this idea that perhaps you are going to see things pop off later this year for Bitcoin and crypto markets, broadly speaking. Because if this happens, it's actually possible, and this is the reason I want to highlight this. Just give me a couple minutes here. This is why it's possible, some analysts say, that we're actually going to see Bitcoin pop off a bit later this year to a new all-time high, which, interestingly enough, if they're right, would put us back into a position where we're back in we are in a 4-year cycle. It means we never left it. So people have been assuming, and it's fair enough to speculate, that we're in a 3-year cycle because Bitcoin started ramping up over the last few months. It's possible, and the theory's out there, that we actually just pulled that future price action forward with all this crazy narrative and all the excitement surrounding the ETF. But who knows? Let's see. What if it is the case that things are going to pop off a little bit later? And so here you have a headline from CNBC. I don't really need to read the article, but the headline says it all. S&P 500 rallies 1% to all-time high, surpassing previous records set in 2022. The S&P 500 closed at an all-time high on Friday as investors returned to buying equities in force following a short-lived market stumble to start the new year. Okay, cool to see that. Happy to see that. What does that mean historically for the price action of Bitcoin? And again, even if you don't care about Bitcoin, you should care about what happens to it directionally, because the market moves together and Bitcoin leads the way, period. That has always been the case. Maybe it won't always be the case, but it has up to this point, and I see no sign of that weakening at this current moment. But take a look at this. And I appreciate that all the analysts, they're getting themselves on the record, and we're going to see who's right and who's wrong. And again, I'm not an analyst. I don't pretend to know, but I do find it just as fascinating as all of you. But here's the headline from the Daily Huddle. Bitcoin is just months away from a new all-time high, according to this indicator, says analyst Kevin Svensson. Cryptocurrency analyst and trader Kevin Svensson is forecasting the potential path forward for Bitcoin over the coming weeks and months. Svensson tells his 71,300 YouTube subscribers that the S&P 500, an index tracking the stock performance of the largest 500 listed companies in the US, has previously served as a leading indicator for Bitcoin ahead of reaching a new all-time high. And so this is the important part. Even if you only care about XRP or whatever your favorite altcoin is, just check out the analysis here. Here's the quote. The S&P is always leading Bitcoin on the all-time high breaks. And this is a good sign because Bitcoin is still 40% below its all-time high, and the S&P is right near its all-time high. So if you look back in time, the second halving, 2016, the S&P 500 broke its all-time high during the second halving, and about 7 months later, Bitcoin broke its all-time high. That was about a 7-month difference. In the third halving, in 2020, the most recent halving, the S&P broke its all-time high, and about 4 months later, Bitcoin broke its all-time high. End quote. So those are the historic differences over the last couple cycles. 7 months, 4 months. So if it's 4 months, that would put us in the range of what a lot of analysts are saying, including analysts within the XRP community. Piece continues. On what Bitcoin is likely to do as the S&P 500 index hovers just below its all-time high of 4,796 points reached on January 3rd of 2022. Svensson says, and obviously, so this is before the high on Friday, he said, Bitcoin is likely, I would say, less than half a year away, probably about 4 months away from its all-time high. So if the S&P breaks its all-time high, well, we can be pretty sure that Bitcoin is just months away from doing the same thing, and then we would be off into this bull market. That is at least what history shows us, end quote. So if it follows 2016, you're looking the second half of this year, and if it follows, what happened in 2020, then you're looking at months away. So I understand people are afraid right now, and nobody knows for sure what's going to happen, and history doesn't always perfectly repeat, but we can draw upon history to come to reasonable conclusions in terms of probability. That's the reason I'm highlighting this. This is why analysts do what they do. Now, this was also interesting, though, on this topic here. There's an analyst named Ottavio Costa. Not familiar with him, but this popped up in my feed on X, and I wanted to share it with you. He is a Crescat Capital partner and macro strategist. A lot of followers there. I know it's 213,000 followers, so apparently some people respect what he has to say here. And he shared this chart showing S&P 500 performance by sector. And I found this very fascinating because something's jumping out. If you're looking at the screen, do you see something jumping out at the top there? Here's what he had to say. The S&P 500 just closed at record levels, yet only 1 out of 11 sectors made new highs today. Technology. The disconnect becomes more evident when considering the 5-year performance across different sectors. Tech bubble 2.0. So I found that fascinating, and I don't know that that was the case for previous cycles. And I haven't had time to digest, even on my own, think through whether or not that might have any sort of implications for what happens with Bitcoin this cycle. But, frequently it's been pointed out that, cryptos kind of trade more like they're tech stocks anyway, right? So if that's the case, that probably doesn't look too bad, right? But I'd be curious to get additional perspective from analysts, on this topic. So if I come across that in the coming days, I'll be happy to share with you thoughts from various people here. Because again, I'm just like the rest of you. I don't know for sure what's going to happen. I want to find out, and I'm curious. So I love researching perspective from all sorts of people, and sharing my own thoughts just as a non-analyst because it's fun to talk about this stuff. But suffice it to say, I am optimistic that the best is yet ahead. In 2024, it's probably going to be completely nuts. This ETF stuff, like I've been saying, bogus narrative. I never believed that was going to be anything of consequence in the short term, although I do think it matters over the long term, the spot Bitcoin ETFs. But regardless, I would be very surprised, given all the dynamics that we've been discussing as a community. I'd be very surprised if we don't see some serious fireworks sooner than later. So sit tight here. But one day we're going to wake up and that XRP is going to be running along with the rest of the market, frankly. But specifically, I'll be looking out for XRP because it's still my largest holding by a lot. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.